This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening, everyone. The Liberal Party has come under fire for including Commonwealth funding in its record health spend. Analysts say with a revised figure of the Liberal package, both major parties are underspending in health. It's as the Labor Party today causes confusion over the rollout of its own health policy.
On the campaign trail with a message to sell.
We are serious about outlining a deliverable, achievable, responsible plan for Tasmania's healthcare system.
The Liberals today pledging a new Burnie ambulance station in 3 years to improve response times.
We need to locate our new ambulance station as close to the highway as possible, because where it is right now is considered something of a rabbit warren with significant retail traffic.
The Liberals promised record health spend is inflated by Commonwealth funding. Analysts revealing the package worth $750 million has been boosted by almost $200 million.
Yes, we are expecting the Commonwealth to contribute to this record-beating health investment, as I said on day one on Sunday.
But the state budget tells you what's going on, and these documents didn't. And it was deliberately misleading in my view.
Every dollar that we've committed, our $560 million package, is money that the Labor Party would fund from a state budget.
The revised figure bringing the Liberal package in line with the Labor Party. Mr Goddard suggesting both have underspent for a system under increasing pressure, a Launceston commitment needed immediately.
And not 40 beds by 2023, which the Liberals are promising. Then we are going to see the sort of crises happening all the time in Launceston that we've got used to in Hobart.
The Labor leader today causing confusion over the party policy, not quite correcting figures on the health package made on Talkback Radio.
That's what the Liberal Party have proposed. So the Labor
was saying that's what you guys.
It's 200. It's a bit greater for us. Sorry, it's 270. He might have been looking at the Liberal Party figure.
The Labor Party will, in fact, deliver $250 million over the next term of government, less than half of its $570 million commitment.
It's only the capital component that would extend beyond the 4 years. We're talking about employing 500 health professionals in the first term.
We have had 3 policy positions from the Labor Party in just 2 weeks. They are moving the goalposts, or worse, making it up as they go along.
Jacqueline Robson, Southern Cross News.
And the state's 2 aspiring premiers have gone head-to-head in the first official election debate. But one of the key campaign issues, pokies, was left off the table, leaving some voters frustrated.
A civil debate between our state's 2 aspiring leaders.
Yes, it is my 5th election campaign, but I don't believe there's been a more important one for our state than this one.
Boosting the health system, the first major talking point, with both parties committing to do just that.
Our commitments are over 4 years to employ 500 staff.
But when it comes to education, Ms White doesn't believe extending all high schools to Year 12 adds up.
Unfortunately, the Labor policy is not to commit to the complete rollout of schools, as I understand it, and that would mean that Parklands, for example, or Penguin, may not receive the same sorts of resources.
We have committed to build the K-12 school at Penguin, and we have also committed that we will not roll back Year 11 and 12 for those communities who already have it. Our concern has been the erosion of the college system.
Protesters stole the limelight for a brief moment, but reopening the Arthur Pyman area for 4-wheel drives soon got the debate back on track.
Certainly our plan is for that to occur.
Obviously, the Liberal Party went to the last election saying they would open all 15 of them. Now the application that's been made to the federal government is to partially reopen 3.
And while both major parties continue to make big election pledges, they deny they'll drown the state surplus.
We turned $1 billion deficits that we inherited, net debt approaching $400 million, into the best fiscal result in 10 years.
We're not intent on blowing any budget. We want to provide responsible budget management that also enables us to provide the essential services people expect.
Some questions voters expected today were left off the table, as organisers say they ran out of time.
I thought it was the most boring debate I've ever come across my entire life. I'm in an action group against the pokies and, you know, there was no questions on that.
Very civilised. The reality is there's not a lot of difference between both parties and their policies.
I was a bit worried they didn't say something about the pokies, because it's something that's been a big topic in the state. Rebecca is a very sort of pleasant person, a very pleasant woman, and I think she will do well. But I still think the Liberals have got it.
Monica Dadson, Southern Cross News.
The Mount Wellington Cable Car Company has been given permission to begin its preliminary works. The government sent this memo to Hobart City Council aldermen in January, just days before the election was called. It gives permission for surveying on Mount Wellington, including drilling and scaffolding. Members of council are criticising the move.
Been made to assess the heritage of the area or consult with the Aboriginal community, and that also concerns us because we think they are legitimate stakeholders and should be involved in the management of the mountain.
The state government removed the need for landowner consent from the Hobart City Council under special legislation passed last year. The preliminary works will allow the company to establish a development application for approval. The Supreme Court has heard details of an alleged bashing victim's injuries as the Central Highlands murder trial continues in Hobart. The court today hearing from a forensic pathologist who said Donald Crow's death was caused by a constellation of injuries, including suffering significant force to his face and head. Dr. Donald Ritchie said the victim's injuries were consistent with being stomped on numerous times and that he would have been alive for as long as an hour or more after the alleged assault. The accused, Russell Nauzinski, has previously told the court he was acting in self-defence. The trial continues. A Supreme Court jury has found a man guilty of torching a North Hobart mental health facility. David Leslie Chandler had previously pleaded not guilty to the arson charge on the grounds of insanity. Louise Hedger has the details.
David Leslie Chandler sat quietly in the docks here at Hobart Supreme Court as today's verdict was delivered by a jury of 5 men and 7 women. They found him guilty of arson following a blaze that destroyed mental health facility, the Peacock Centre, in 2016. The trial heard from 2 of Chandler's treating doctors who gave evidence relating to his diagnosed mental illnesses, including schizophrenia. He was said to have been unhappy with his medication and at the time was experiencing psychosis that the mental health system was out to harm him. Before the jurors retired to make their decision, Justice Gregory Gleeson reminded them the cause of the fire was not in dispute. He said it was agreed Chandler arrived to the centre in an agitated state, poured fuel around the reception area, subsequently destroying much of it. But that the question at the heart of the case is the accused's mental state at the time he lit the fire. The jury told to consider whether Chandler was incapable of knowing he was doing something he shouldn't, or whether he was under an impulse he couldn't resist. The jury returned with their verdict after just an hour of deliberations. A psychiatric report will be prepared for the court prior to sentencing, which won't happen until April. Chandler has been remanded in custody.
A prominent berry producer says Tasmania will recover from recent fruit fly and blueberry rust incursions with its reputation intact. The comments come as producers report booming sales of berries in recent years.
In a time of trouble for Tasmania's fruit growers comes a sweetener from a major producer. Simon Dornoff runs Hillwood Berries, which sells thousands of tonnes of product each year. He says the state's clean, green image will escape largely unscathed from recent biosecurity scares.
They've been working around the clock in the last couple of weeks with this incursion and as well as previously with blueberry rust, so they've had a bit to deal with.
At an international berry conference being held in Launceston, Dornoff says these hot-button issues will be a catalyst for change. He expects better processes to be put in place as producers connect with government over how to protect our state.
I think the topic's going to be more about what the next pest will be. I think Queensland fruit fly is just the dress rehearsal for more pests that will come in.
Despite those concerns, the industry is reporting strong sales, both here...
Traditional fruits like bananas and that are being overtaken by berries.
...and overseas. The Blueberry Association says it's becoming cheaper and easier to fly berries out of Tasmania and into Asia.
And then when we see the provincial airlines in China start to bring tourists in, guess what? Those planes will turn around and be a nice spot to put fresh food.
Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
Tasmanian cycling legend Ritchie Porte is being glorified in a giant maze. The puzzling portrait is expected to draw in 5,000 visitors when it opens to the public in a fortnight.
Ritchie Porte has had some amazing achievements. Being made into a maze is now one of them.
Well, I did mention having a giant portrait of Ritchie, but we thought that might have been a bit too over the top.
Instead, he's depicted leading the peloton up a mountain in the Tour de France. On the ground, you can see these perplexing paths are cut out of crops. Farmer Rowan Clark says the maze is not only good family fun, but a way to teach townsfolk about agriculture.
If we can keep that town and country connection, well, I'd be very pleased with that.
This is the 5th maze made by Rowan and wife Anna at Rupert's Wood Farm in Hagley. Last year, they did a giant map of Tasmania. Although it only takes a day to cut the maze, months of preparation is involved.
We added the mountains in as a last-minute thing. We wanted to have Ritchie going up the mountains because we know that's his strength, so we had to include that in there.
From start to finish, the maze is about 3 kilometres long and takes most people 2 hours to get through. But if you're anything like me, you'll be stuck here all day. Where am I? It's happened before.
Yes, that's right. We did have a phone call. Someone couldn't find their way out.
The maze opens to the public on the 24th of February and runs for 5 weekends. And when it's over, the maize becomes maize. That is, the grain used in stock feed. You could say we go full circle. Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
The cast of the hit TV series Rake is featuring in a new campaign encouraging more Australians to use CPR. The short clip is using humour to deliver a very serious message about cardiac arrest.
He's the Sydney barrister of the hit Australian TV series Rake.
Has the jury reached a verdict?
Cleaver Green starring in a new national campaign, encouraging more people to administer CPR when faced with an emergency cardiac arrest.
That's a cardiac arrest. I got this.
No, we need to do compressions.
Any moron can do CPR. I think, in a sense, that's what that's what we're pitching with the idea of a character like Cleaver Green doing it.
An idea driven by Dr. Paul McIntyre with an aim to send a very serious message.
The plan now is to try and launch that as part of a public health awareness campaign to promote resuscitation in Australia. We know that people die in Australia because bystanders do nothing.
The campaign emphasises any attempt at resuscitation is better than no attempt.
I've known people who have died far too young from cardiac arrest. And while I don't know the intimate circumstances of what actually happened to them, it was obviously something that struck me.
Survival rates are very low, and of the 24,000 people who have a cardiac arrest out of hospital, we know that only about 6% of them survive.
Defibrillator. Defibrillator. I have the defibrillator.
It's also urging people to take a CPR course.
Luckily, I was here today to save this lady's life.
But in any case, proving the life-saving practice is easy enough for anyone.
Come on, Australia. Let's save lives.
Jacqueline Robson, Southern Cross News.
A new program launched today is aiming to secure work for dozens of recent Afghani refugees struggling in Launceston. 40 government and employment organisations will collaborate to explore solutions where refugees can connect with potential employers.
Sharing a tea and hoping to find work through a new refugee employment scheme.
I hope from this program we be successful and find some jobs for others members of the community and for myself as well.
They're among dozens who have escaped the Taliban, seeking refuge here but no jobs.
There's been a long history of that happening in Tasmania, that we bring communities in, they can't find employment and they go off again.
Launceston is home to around 100 Afghan families, mostly unemployed.
What we find all the time is they do have a difficulty finding employment, so for more help that our local community, and great to see many organisations coming together, working together to want to make a difference in these men's and the families' lives.
We want to find ways of helping them get into employment or be self-employed. We think there are some ways of doing that in the rural sector, maybe in the building area. and possibly in shopkeeping.
Yusuf moved to Launceston less than a year ago and is one of millions of refugees who fled Afghanistan in search of a better future. He struggled to make ends meet, but eventually opened a food market.
They really love Launceston and Tasmania, but the thing is, because there's lack of employment in here, most of them are trying to get into Sydney or big cities like Sydney or Melbourne.
The Refugee Employment Pathways program is run by think tank the Tasmania Opportunity, and any potential employers interested can get involved by visiting the website. Rita Risk, Southern Cross News.
Now let's take a look at the day's business and finance news with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. The share market has continued to gain ground in afternoon trade to close higher, with utilities and mining stocks among the best performers. The ASX 200 index rose 35.2 points. A short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 79 US cents and 85.18 Japanese yen. Sport time now with Tom Cooper. Tom, the state in desperate need of more basketball facilities.
Yeah, according to the Sports National CEO, it certainly is, Joe. I'll tell you more after the break. Also coming up, Tassie's very own Ritchie Porte immortalised in the Australian Cricketing Hall of Fame. Well, it was a big night for Tasmanian cricket at last night's Allan Border Medal, with George Bailey and Georgia Redmayne both walking away with honours, while the state's favourite cricketing son was officially immortalised in the Australian Cricketing Hall of Fame. Ponting was just 14 years old when he made his A-grade debut for the Mowbray Cricket Club. Those watching on knew they were seeing something special.
He'd made 400s in a row in the under-13s. I picked him for the first game in the under-16s, he made another 100, so it was 500s in a row. We said, oh my God, haven't we got we're going to have a great A-grade player here.
Punter's meteoric rise in the sport was one his junior club followed very closely.
Just a lot of sleepless nights. I reckon every innings he possibly played, if it was on television, the Mowbray boys would be watching him.
I idolised every one of the A-grade players in my Mowbray Cricket Club team when I was 8, 9, 10 years of age.
Last night, Australia's leading Test and ODI run scorer added one more honour to his name, inducted into the Cricketing Hall of Fame.
An amazing journey that began in the backyard of the northern suburbs of Launceston and ended up in Perth, where I made my debut. So it was 21 fantastic years of lots of great memories and lots of great people.
Punter's induction capping off a good night for Tasmanian cricket, with Tigers and Hurricanes captain George Bailey named the Domestic Player of the Year.
Well, I heard Smithy talking about training hard. I've gone the other way completely, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong. Tread your own path, people, but at my age, I've got a little daughter at home, so I try and skip training as much as I can.
While Roaring Hurricanes keeper Georgia Redmayne was rewarded for her form with the gloves and bat, voted the Betty Wilson Young Cricketer of the Year.
I think there's a great depth of young talent coming through the Aussie system at the moment, so it's a really exciting time to be involved in women's sport, and to be nominated by peers is something that's really special and really humbling as well.
Meanwhile, Tasmanian paceman Jackson Bird has been dealt a big blow, ruled out of Australia's upcoming Test tour of South Africa after injuring his hamstring in the Tigers' recent Sheffield Shield clash against Queensland at the Gabba. Bird was the last player named in the squad to take on the Proteas in next month's tour and will be replaced with South Australian fast bowler Chad Sayers. Tasmanian basketball is at crisis point when it comes to facilities, according to Basketball Australia CEO Anthony Moore, who's visited the state to discuss the ongoing issues facing the sport here at home.
You probably have the worst courts in metropolitan capital city in the country. We visited a couple of the courts today, and it's a bit of a step back in time.
Basketball Tasmania says it's involved in ongoing discussions with the state government as it seeks funding to fix the issue.
Basically 6 courts that we can use in the Metro Hobart area, and 2 of those have turned into synthetic courts, which is inappropriate for our sport. So we're really in dire need of places to play.
Despite the facility shortfall, participation levels are on the rise both in Tasmania and around the country. Joe, that's all I've got for you this Tuesday night. I'll see you tomorrow.
Beautiful. Thanks for that, Tom. Coming up next, Murph joins us with the weather.
Good evening. Hobart, 21 degrees today. Launceston reached 23, Burnie and Devonport 22. 25 was the high at Bushy Park with some light cloud and drizzle over the southeast, but a fine sunny afternoon for most of the state. Friendly Beaches 24 degrees. King Island, Campania and St Helens 23. Wynyard Grove 22. Lowhead, Flinders Island and Strawn all 21. A broad area of cloud lies west of the Bight with unstable air behind it well south of WA. We have thunderstorm clouds through central Australia and the top end. And over our region, some low-level cloud over the west and south with high cloud moving over the state from the west this afternoon as well. Tomorrow a cold front passes over Tasmania and Victoria. A high south of WA ridges over South Australia with troughs over the far west, north and east. The wind's shifting westerly tomorrow and increasing to 30 to 40 knots and even stronger over inland waters as well, and 5-metre swells expected in western and southern waters. A severe weather warning for damaging winds has been issued for the north and west, a gale warning for all coastal waters, a strong wind warning for the Derwent and Channel, a small craft wind alert for the lakes and a warning to sheep graziers for most districts. Hobart, showers and becoming windy, 20 the top. 21 for Geeveston, showers and wind for Bothwell and 20 degrees. For Launceston, a possible storm, a windy day, 22 the top. 22 also for Devonport with that same forecast, a windy day too for Cressy and 20 degrees. For Burnie, a possible storm and showery, 22. 20 for Strawn and Curry, showers and very windy tomorrow and 20 degrees. 23 for St Helens and Swansea. Orford becoming windy and 21 degrees. There's the UV, dropping a little but still deemed to be very high. On Thursday, showers mainly over the west, south and Bass Strait, strong westerly winds. Showers for those same regions on Friday, easing and contracting to the southwest, and a cloudy day on Saturday with a shower over the west, contracting to the southeast later. Sunny in Perth, early cloud clearing from Adelaide, windy and showery in Melbourne, windy and fine in Canberra and Sydney, hot in Brisbane with a gusty storm and a storm likely for Darwin as well. And there you see the current conditions, Joe, as I'm trying out a few outfits for the racing carnival, because this year I want to cross my T's and dot my I's.
OK, thank you very much. Just gets more confusing every night. That's all from us. Good night.